Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Storytelling Saturday. I'm Michael Gracia. Today I got a great guest coming on. He's a cartoonist. His name's Tim Jones. He does the strip Sour Grapes. Now, if you've been with me for the last few weeks, you know I've been doing a bunch of storytelling tips and talking about technique and things based on how I go about storytelling. I've taught storytelling for over 16 years on the college level. I've also taught it to kids of all ages. And I want you guys to know in the beginning, I'm not the be all and end all, man of knowledge on storytelling. Everyone does these things differently. I'm going to talk about how I learned. We're going to when I bring Tim on, we're going to talk about his strip and how he goes about writing humor. We're going to look at humor strips today, some different ones. I'm going to talk about some of the books that I've used growing up. It's just a lot of different things. But humor is a process, and anyone can learn to write humor. I want to start off by saying that anyone could learn to write humor. It's just you need to learn the technique. Now, some people are naturally funny. Some people need to work at it. But when you're doing what we call gag writing in the business, it is a process. It is difficult to be funny constantly. So we talk about how we can work on developing. Hold on. Sorry, had an itch. All right, so let me bring Tim on. I love his strip Sour Grapes. If you guys haven't seen it, check out Sour Grapes. You can find it on Instagram. I'll get I forgot the Instagram handle. I'll ask Tim to let us know about that. So, but first, let's bring Tim on. Hey, Tim, how you doing?
Hi, guys.
Hello.
How are
So,
you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm here.
Uh, is what's your Instagram handle for Sour Grapes?
Um, it's Sour Grapes 2017.
Okay, I forgot I knew it was like a date. I forgot the date. So,
I'm pretty
uh,
sure.
well, I will quickly add a banner to this today, so you guys can.
Yes, Sour Grapes 2017. I got it right.
Okay. Instagram
Hi, Mark.
at
People chiming in.
awesome. That's great. 2017. So you guys, I'm adding this right here. Definitely check out at Sour Grapes 2017 on Instagram. Let's go to the Mark Jones. Hello. Thank you for joining us. So Tim, number one, thank you for coming on today. I'm a big fan of your strip, as you know.
Thank you.
It always gives me a chuckle, which is what I look for in my humor strips. So I'm looking forward to talking about humor with you. Before we actually go into the process of talking about how to go about writing humor, what were some of the strips that influenced you?
Let's see. The two big ones are Peanuts and Garfield.
Okay.
And the other ones are uh, BC and Wizard of ID, Johnny Hart.
Okay.
Those are big time. More influenced by them for my drawing than humor, but Garfield, as far as writing goes, is a slapstick kind of humor. So
Yes.
that's a big influence on me. Go back to when Garfield first started out back in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've read it ever since. And so those are the biggest ones.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I love those. We're going to look at a couple of those. Mike Wilkie's in the audience watching. So hi,
Oh,
Mike. Thanks for joining. He's someone I should have also on for this humor stuff. This guy writes some great single panel gags, which we'll take a look at some single panel gags in a little bit. So as a cartoonist, just and about your strip, just let us know when you kind of came up with it, when it started, and you're self syndicated. So if you want to tell us about the process you took to self syndicate.
Sure. I've been doing sour grapes since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really come to gel within the past couple of years, as far as talking about writing and stuff. So it's leveled out to um, a place where I like it. It's a good. I'm sure we'll talk about rhythm
Mm-hmm.
as far as my writing goes, and that, and how the characters come into play and that type of thing. Um, so yeah, I've been able to get it into 28 newspapers,
That's
which has been,
fantastic.
thanks, anywhere from 2 to 5 years
Mm-hmm.
for those. So they've kind of found a home, and um, luckily are still in there. So you know, I'm just starting to fish out to more papers throughout the country, which isn't easy, especially with COVID and stuff. But um, uh, so um, so yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's a blank slate, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And my life is a blank slate, actually. But uh, so I try and just as far as the writing goes, I try and um, rely on my own life experiences, whether it's from the last week, from the last month, spur of the moment that day,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then I just kind of translate that um, into the strip itself, and into the characters, and into their own world.
Yeah.
So sometimes easy, sometimes no.
Yeah. I know. It's always like I said, writing humor can be a difficult thing. Uh, where did you learn to write humor from? Was it something natural, something you picked up from reading comics, or did you read any books, take a class? How did your humor writing come to be?
Um, my humor writing is, I've always been uh, a comedic guy, um, and it's just my personality, and well, part of my personality. So I'm always finding humor just about everything, um, and uh, and there is humor in just about everything. You just have to find it. You
Hmm.
know, you just have to be careful of whether it's appropriate or not. But uh, so, as far as my writing and stuff, I just it's developed over time. Like I said in the strip, just within the past couple of years, it's gelled. To
Hmm.
a point where um, I know where to um, find the joke, and you know, with with a joke, I think it's important to I try and keep it at a baseline of a giggle.
Hmm.
Okay, because if you're always trying to get into a laugh out loud kind of joke, it's tough, because now the next time you write one, you gotta either do that or top it. You
Yeah.
know, because if you start going backwards in it, then um, it becomes more difficult trying to stay at that top. So if you stay at uh, an average mean of um, a giggle, or a decent laugh, um, then I feel I'm successful.
That's interesting you say that because I look for the giggles as well. When I used to sell myself as a if you want to use the term gag writer, or just I was writing some silly single panel strips, my tagline was a giggle in every gag. That's
Yeah,
how I sold myself as a writer. Uh, um, and it was okay.
yeah.
Professionally, but it's a hard business, and it's a hard business to stay in, to write and do comics. I'm going to show in a little bit some of my process. I don't know if you want to share some of your process in a little bit when we talk about
Oh
it.
yeah.
But I wanted to go into and talk a little bit about what got me. I don't want to say got me into humor, but how I started to learn to write humor. I was as a kid, grew up loving comics, loving cartoons. I think most of us do. Um, and my first introduction to writing comics was um, when my parents, and I've mentioned this on other streams, when I was 13 and my parents for Christmas gave me the Bruce Splits How to Draw Comic Strips, and I learned the process of what goes into one panel, and then I started exploring and reading, and I found this book a long time ago. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's
No.
called the Secrets of Professional Cartoonists. Excuse me. They
Wow,
talk
that's
about.
like a Bible for.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, you
Is
know,
that still out?
no, this book is from God, I don't know. I found this on eBay. I collect cartooning books.
Oh.
So this is from 1981, this book.
Oh wow.
And like it says, it shows here high and lowest, right? Where's the camera for it? All right. And then it'll talk about, the pens that they were using and the size they drew at. And then as you go further into the back, they give you drawing tips and how to cartoon, and they talk about you know the sizes of drawing comics and Sunday strips. I mean, now obviously this is back from the 70s, 80s. Sizes may have changed a bit, but I love this book. I've gone through it. This one I bought off and eBay as well. It's kind of really old. It looks like it's had some water damage to it, but I couldn't pass it up. And the cover
Yeah.
was so messed up that I found the copy of the cover online and printed it up and just glued it on so I knew the book. It's called Do You Know This is Jack Morrow's Cartoonists and Gag Writing Handbook? All right. This is another old one. This is from the 70s.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you want to know anything about humor, this book covers it. All right. They talk about the different. I even did the back cover too because it was just. But like, it gives you suggestions. And they talk about different. I'd have to find. I should have probably bookmarked a few pages before I came on here. But they give you like writing prompts and like bad jokes for puns and how humor. The different types, and I'm trying to find that page right now. So the first section is on gag writing, and they're doing mostly. Whoa! Things just fell out of the back of the book. Hold on, and all this can probably go in the garbage. Let me toss this. Sorry, guys.
Must be the appendix.
It's actually, this was a library
You don't
book.
need that.
This used to be a library book, and this that someone sold, and it just has people's writing. It was all covered up. I never knew what was behind it.
Oh.
But here, like, this is what's really cool that I found interesting. The hidden elements. So if you could see, and I'm just going to give myself the screen for a moment. Whoops. There we go. So like you could see on the hidden element, where is it there? Like this is a type of joke, like a guy's getting out and he has no clue what's going on. There was a car accident and the guy's taking out a giant gorilla who's gonna probably, whoops, wrong way, fight the truck driver. You know what I mean? So he doesn't know. So there's humor in there. And examples of the hidden element. I'm not going to go through all of this, but this one here, the reverse, like it says here, what's a joint like this doing in a girl like you? So little play on words and stuff. I mean, I won't go through this, but this, if you can find a copy of this book,
Yeah.
fantastic. I learned so much. I even took comedy writing classes because I wanted to do stand up, and I found out that at the time I couldn't do stand up. I couldn't get up. I had stage fright, but I was good at writing, and it went to my comics. This book by Chris Hart is always good.
I have that.
Yeah, this is a fantastic book.
Yep.
Um, and then I got this one here that I really enjoyed, the Cartoonist's Workbook.
Oh
So
yeah.
those are the books I went through learning how to write. Even though I think my teachers were mostly through reading comics and just trying to, and naturally being funny and trying to figure out how jokes worked the best, or how my humor
Yeah.
worked. So that was my education on writing. And I've
So
had those books for what? Go ahead.
so this brings. Can I jump in?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead.
Always ask permission. Um, I two of the things that really helped me um, is when I was first starting the Sour Grapes. First of all, you got to get to know the characters and all of that. But um, what I always tried to find out what made me laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, and and one of the things that I used to do was I used to read the comics,
Hmm.
Sunday comics, the funnies,
Yeah.
and I would look at how the other artists, no matter who they were, whatever the strip was, handled a certain situation,
Hmm.
what their point of view was to that, um, what kind of um, humor it was. Was it observational? Was it puns? Was it slapstick? Was it um, you know, any other kind? Um, was it just smart humor? You know,
Hmm.
was it humor that only one group of people would really understand, like Dilbert?
Yeah.
If you worked in business, offices, cubicles, that type of thing, then you'd get that stuff more than you would, something else that's a little more general. Um, so, um, and not only laugh, but more, um, kind of just make you uh, smile at least.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Peanuts strips are not laugh out loud funny. They're smile, you know,
Yeah.
they're smile bringers or whatever
Hmm.
whatever word you want to use. But um, and when I'm drawing, um, I I write and draw at the same time.
Hmm.
Okay, because I mix the two as I see the characters. I know what their expressions and stuff or what they're going to say, and what I'm writing needs to match up what the characters are doing.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, then that just creates confusion to me, which I'm easily confused, uh,
Hmm.
or to the reader. Okay,
Yeah.
so but where was I going with that? But it. Well, go ahead because I just lost
It's
my
okay.
train of thought.
It's okay.
There's the confusion again. I'll
Yeah.
think of it in a second. But
Well, let me ask you while you're thinking about it, do you have someone that you bounce your jokes off of, or do you just go with what you think is funny and hope for the best?
sometimes what's funny is I notice that the ones that I don't think are funny are the
Hmm.
ones that other people think are funny. And it's kind of strange. That doesn't happen all the time, but and I know a couple of times I've bounced stuff off of you.
Hmm.
Um, I always send it to my wife, who's a first grade teacher, and
Yeah.
she's more of my editor than anything else. You don't need a comma there. You don't need this. Um, switch these two words around. You don't need this word, and then, but she never tells me whether it's funny or not. I have to go back to her and say, "Well, is it funny? I don't care about the other stuff." And she
Yeah.
just give you the thumbs up. And this is me downstairs in my corner here, and she's upstairs, and we're texting back and forth. So that's how we
Yeah.
communicate in the house.
Yeah.
But You know, laundry needs to be done, but so that's how that happens.
Yeah,
But
you know, I'm
I
sorry. Go
do
ahead.
I do bounce it off a few people. I call them my auxiliary editors.
Mhm.
You know, some friends of mine, and but sometimes I'll know right away. This is good. You know, you'll know.
Yeah.
That's the thing with comedy. You'll know if it's funny right away. If
Mhm.
it makes you laugh, if it makes yourself laugh.
Yeah.
You know, so or for me, it works that way.
Yeah. No, it's funny you say that because I bounce my jokes off my wife, and sometimes she just sits there like blank, and I'll say, "Is it funny?" She goes, "Yeah, it's funny." Like she's not laughing. Very few times do I get her to have a laugh out loud moment. Um, but she'll be like, "That's really cute," or like she'll tell me that it works,
Yeah.
but I'm not getting the reaction that I want,
Right.
from
Right.
someone reading my strip. So it's funny
One
that
of the
our
one of the questions I'll ask is, you know, a lot of it's on text. I'll send a picture of it, not quite
Mhm.
finished, but you can see the writing, and it'd be like, "Are you being nice? You're just being nice, right?" You know, and um, but I just saw one of the comments,
Yeah, we're gonna get to one of the comments in a moment too.
but
There's a question in the comments.
so yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, and then they'll say, "No, no, no, it's funny, it's funny." Oh, okay. And, you know, of course, in the text you can't hear the tone of their voice, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But for all I know, they're going, "Yeah, that's funny. Throw it out."
Uh,
Um,
do you mind if we get to the comments
oh,
or?
go ahead, go
All
ahead.
right. Well, first of all, we got, oh my God, Tim Jones. Tim Sour Grape Jones, huge fan, dude. So,
Thanks, Nolan. The check's in
yeah.
the mail.
And we got Alfred Reed. He says, good afternoon. Where do you find the inspiration for your comic, please? So, tell us about where you get inspiration. I'll talk about how I get inspiration for my stuff.
Oh, inspiration, Alfred, is just my everyday life, because that's what this strip
Mhm.
is based on.
Mhm.
Um, and most of my life is funny in different angles, and for different reasons. But whether, you know, it's an angry funny, or whether it's a you know, like I said, I'm able to find the humor in a lot of things that um, you wouldn't normally, or someone else might normally do, but just because I'm eccentric. And uh, so I just bring that into the comic strip. Really,
Mhm.
I don't sit there and think of a joke, you know, because I don't want my strip to be a vehicle for a joke. You know, so some people might just have a joke. They'll write a week's worth or a month's worth of jokes, or you know, episodes that wind up with a punchline, or whatever. I would rather it just fit into my strip,
Mhm.
and becomes funny in and of itself, as opposed to just writing a joke and then writing pictures that kind of go along with the joke. You know,
Yeah.
so that's me.
Um, which is great because I think everyone kind of pulls from life. I know I do, but sometimes I think, um, when I'm writing a strip like my comic The Wiz, which I plan to bring back. When I was writing him, I feel, and I've said this before on other streams, and people who work on comics and regular comics, I think can understand this. I think you just kind of hear conversations in your head. It's like, I don't know, maybe it is from life. Like I'm at the doctor's office, like how would the whiz be at the doctor? And then I'm writing a doctor joke. You know what I mean? And I'm like hearing his voice or the characters within the whiz, having this conversation. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, my inspiration definitely comes from life. Definitely comes from all around. But I think when you have a cast of characters that you know very well and personal, it almost writes itself. They're like there to tell you, hey, I'm here, you know, just I'm telling you what to say. You know what I mean? It's I don't want
Yeah,
to say I'm crazy and have the split personality. People have called me crazy and other things like that before, but
I do. Oh no.
but what I'm saying is I think once you have a cast of characters like you do or that I do, um it's almost like family. You know how they're going to react.
Yeah.
You can hear the stuff in your head. Um,
Right.
and I feel like that's it. I get ideas from TV though, things I read. I used to get a lot of ideas just by observing life. Before the pandemic, and actually a little bit more before the pandemic. Um, I used to go hang out at like coffee houses, like a Starbucks, and I just observe people.
Yeah.
I'd pretend to listen to, I'm not listening to a conversation, but I'd listen to what they're saying, and not like eavesdropping in the sense where I'm nosy, but you hear a word, you see something, and all of a sudden, boom, it sparks a joke, So that's how I used to do a lot of my writing. Um,
So
and yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Um, so when you had mentioned stand up. So
Mhm.
I used to actually do stand up,
Oh, really?
and yeah, and I quit just because people would laugh at me. But um, I and I was allergic to tomatoes, so with either one. But but you started to learn, and at the time I didn't really realize it, but it was actually, and I wasn't doing the strip back then. It was a while ago, and you learn about construction of a
Mhm.
joke and um, the the rhythm. I mentioned that at the beginning. The rhythm of the joke, the
Yeah.
beats, and all that stuff. And then after that, um, I stopped doing that, and I went into doing some improv classes, which helped. Which helped um, coming up with a joke on the spot,
Yeah.
being funny on the spot, not necessarily a joke, but being funny on the spot. That really, really helped with off the cuff stuff,
Yeah.
which is, if you notice, some of the stuff I've said so far, you know, just because it becomes a reflex.
Yeah.
I'm constantly joking around and finding
Yeah. Yeah.
funny things to say to somebody. It's become a reflex. I don't even think about it. But what
Mhm.
I'm saying is that really helps with my strip. If
Yeah.
you read my strip, a lot of the things that happened, like in the last panel, are my knee jerk response to the other two panels.
Mhm.
And if you get to know your characters really, really well, my characters are always on my mind, like,
Yeah.
especially Aesop. And if you get to know the characters, you're going to know what they're going to say or how they're going to handle a situation or how they're even going to feel about it.
Yeah.
Because they've not because you've cut them to know them, they've almost become a part of you.
Yeah.
So when you get a knee jerk response, now it's Aesop's knee jerk response, not just mine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Exactly.
it sounds kind of strange, but
No, I think that goes to what I was saying about how I feel like I'm just hearing them. They're living in this world in my head, and I'm just writing down and drawing what they're basically doing.
yeah.
Yeah. Um. So you mentioned Peanuts. You mentioned Wizard of It as some of your inspiration. I wanted to talk about a few of mine that I find very funny, and we're going to look at a few in a few moments. But you mentioned BC. I got my Growing Gold BC,
Oh,
um, a 50-year celebration.
amazing.
This stuff I love. I love the simplicity and style. There are different things um, that attract me to a humor strip. Sometimes it's always going to be the writing, as long as I can laugh. But sometimes I'll read a strip that is just drawn funny. If you can draw funny, just have that natural ability to be silly and just you see it pop out on paper. I tend to go towards those type of strips too. Um, and you can see the evolution here of BC and how it started. And I happen to think the simplicity of BC can just be funny, just in the drawings alone. There are some strips that, like, okay, I have Beetle Bailey here. Okay, I love Beetle Bailey. I'm attracted to Beetle Bailey because I have a background in animation. I love animation, and I've always been attracted to these clean line style. That's some of my favorites. So you look at Garfield, clean line style. All right, but some of the drawings are not as funny unless you read them. Like, these are great. Let's read a gag, and you're gonna get something. Same thing with right here, Hagar the Horrible.
One of my favorites. Yeah,
I love Hagar. To me, this Hagar, I don't know if I could say he's my top, but he's up there, like in my top 5. I would definitely say. An old strip, excuse me, that I was attracted to. Peanuts book here, just so you guys know. I have a lot of Peanuts stuff. An old strip that I found just reading about old comics on the web, and then I had to go out and buy the book because I read a couple of strips online. I don't know if you know this, but Jack Kent's Kingaroo. This one's from the 52 to 54.
yeah.
It's just beautifully illustrated. The strips are funny. It looks like you're almost looking at an animated cartoon. It's just gorgeous. So this type of stuff helps me pop out. Obviously the Lockhorns, those are great.
Yep.
One of my all-time favorites, and I know there's a debate of who's better, Garfield or Heathcliff. I've always I like both. I've always been a bit more of a Heathcliff fan, just because I like the little tough guy attitude he gets by with. But I think they're both fantastic. Modern day, I think one of the funniest strips out here today is Rip Haywire. Dan Thompson does a great job of giving a story. A story. Soldier of Fortune's kind of got a Dick Tracy feel, and a much more updated with it's kind of story / humor, which you don't usually see.
So is that's a serial?
Yes.
One. So it's the constant story.
Yeah. But it always ends with a joke at the end, and that's different than most of the things. And then I probably think, outside of Peanuts, this is the most famous strip, and this is probably my all-time favorite, Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I think, and we're going to look at a couple of the strips in a few moments. Is there anything that I didn't put on the list that you want to mention?
Like, oh, geez, a lot of your influences or favorites are like all mine. I'm just trying to think of another one. One of the ones that I gravitate to. Well, we've got that new one from someone that I know. I think you know. Is Wallace the Brave.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic.
Will Henry, who lives right here in Rhode Island. If anybody doesn't know where Rhode Island is, it's between Connecticut and Massachusetts. You can't really see it unless you blink. But so he lives here, and he's got a wonderfully drawn strip, and it's cute. It reminds me of Calvin and Hobbes and that. So that's one that I'll look for. There's so many. Red and Rover.
I think I know that one. That sounds familiar.
Norm Futy's Retail. Mark Parisi. Single panel.
Yeah, off the mark.
Forever. He's the chairman of the New England chapter, National Cartoonist Society. That's that I belong to. And so his stuff is always funny.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to go to the comments. Alfred mentioned that I have he says, all great characters, and Michael, you have a wonderful collection. I just want to say thank you for that. And I also, that's just a fraction of what I have. I have 4 maybe 4.5 bookshelves just filled of strip books. I collect comics for years, but I prefer to read strips over like superhero books. Anyway, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to thank him.
No, that's fine.
Um, okay, yeah. How about we switch over to a different screen? We'll move over to my monitor, my other monitor, and let's take a look at some strips, and we can talk about. I picked out some of my. I don't want to say some of my favorite, but just some of the classic strips, and we can talk about the humor in them, if you're interested, and
Yeah.
why. Okay, so let me. Where's my mouse? Here it is. Add to stream. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just give this full screen so people can see better. So we'll be off, but they'll be able to hear us. Okay, so I'm in Photoshop here just because this is how I set it up. We're going to look at multi-panel strips first, and then we'll look at some single panels. So I pulled out um, some of my favorites. And here I got the very first Peanuts, the very first Calvin and Hobbes, um, a, uh, a Beetle Bailey, and a Hagar the Horrible. So we'll give them the audience can read this, but um, I'll read them for them. It says the first panel of Peanuts. Well, here comes old Charlie Brown. Second panel. Good old Charlie Brown. Yes, sir. Good old Charlie Brown. How I hate him. I mean, to this day, this came out. I forget the exact date, but it was 1950, and I I I still laugh at this one. You know,
Yeah.
uh, we'll just read them, and then we'll go through them. So the Calvin and Hobbes. So Calvin, so long, Pop. I'm off to check my tiger trap. I rigged a tuna fish sandwich yesterday, so I'm sure to have a tiger by now. They like tuna fish, huh? Tigers will do anything for a tuna fish sandwich. We're kind of stupid that way. Just, just great. Beetle Bailey, what are you doing, Beetle? I'm counting all the rocks in the road, and then 321, 322, 323. Don't you have anything more important to do? Yes, that's why I'm doing this. So, just great, perfect slacker.
Yeah.
Um, and then we come here to Hagar the Horrible. Swordplay is my meat and potatoes. And then he's wheezing, hunched over. He says, looks like your meat and potatoes are getting in the way of your swordplay. So, just always cracks me up. So, let's just kind of chat about these. Which ones are you? And hold on one second, Nolan. I see your comment in there. We'll get to that in a little bit. So the humor in these, how would you describe the humor to you? Like, are they, good chuckles, good like laugh out loud? What makes these funny to you?
But I'm gravitating to the Hagar the Horrible.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites. But what is that first word? Is my meat and potatoes? What is it? Oh, swordplay.
Swordplay is my meat and potatoes. Yeah.
Right. So it's a great way to kind of twist it a little bit to playing off the off the words because he's comparing swordplay to his meat and potatoes, and then she turns it around, kind of insulting and saying that his meat and potatoes are getting in the way of his swordplay. So she's, the writing is using basically the same words that he said, but twisting them around, showing just the opposite of what he's saying. So that works. I really like that stuff.
Yeah.
That's similar to my style of writing. And then the Beetle Bailey is the next one down that I would that I like, because he twists it around to, yeah, that's what I'm going, that's why I'm doing this, yeah,
Yeah.
and which is funny,
Hmm.
the Calvin and Hobbes is cute. It's not necessarily a punchline per se.
Hmm.
It's just um, it was a smart thing to say, which has humor to it.
Hmm.
You know, this is my interpretation.
Yeah.
Um, and the Charlie Brown, is it's like an unexpected uh, punchline.
Yeah.
Good old Charlie Brown, how I hate him. I mean, basically he could have inserted anything in there, really,
Hmm.
as far as I can see, but that works. It sets up, you know, basically how, you know, obviously how he feels about Charlie Brown. Um, and a lot of these strips kind of harken back to what humor was like in that time. So that was 1950.
Hmm.
Um, someone in 1950 might laugh at that more than someone nowadays, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
So what I'm getting at is a lot of strips, depending on what era they came from,
Yeah.
show or reflect a certain kind of humor that worked back then. It might not work now.
Yeah.
So
I understand. Um. Yeah. No. Excuse me.
I mean, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. No. No. I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. Um. I What I like about these strips, and we'll do Hagar the Horrible, and one of the reasons I love Hagar the Horrible is not because he's a Viking. He's a Viking. It's really a story about a guy. It's a family strip. It's about a guy's work. It can pertain to everything going on, but they do it in the Viking era. So that's one of the things I like. But this one in particular is just, for someone like me who's always kind of on a diet losing weight, I kind of tend to laugh at something like this because I know how something that you might love, like, he loves swordplay, gets in the way. It's a great weight loss joke, like, you
yeah,
need to lose weight. And I kind of like the way that, but you're right with the wordplay, because it made it, it made it a little, it made it funnier. But taking that idea of a husband and wife just kind of having a conversation, and here's a happy guy, and then boom, it's just, you need to lose weight, just said in a nicer way. And then with Beetle Bailey, he's just the ultimate slacker, always trying to get out of work.
right,
um, I don't disagree with you about either one, but I think both were great setups. The reason I chose these strips, of the first two of Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes, not just because they're some of my favorite strips, but I think they were a great introduction. Sometimes the introduction strip I don't think is always that laugh out loud funny, but we know,
right,
and as we get to know Charlie Brown, we know he's kind of this. I don't want to use the word sad character, but he kind of is. He's kind of got, it's like the world's against him. And this is the first viewing of the world is against Charlie Brown, you know? So it's a
yeah,
great setup for that. And with Calvin and Hobbes, just a great introduction to a strip that, yeah, it was funny, but sometimes it just had a lot of, and Peanuts did this thought-provoking writing, always with heart, though. And it's just a nice introduction, to these two guys about to meet.
right.
So that's why I like them. um Nolan asks, any thoughts on Over the Hedge? Do you read that strip at all?
Um, I the name rings a bell. I probably recognize it if I see
Mhm.
it.
It's about like animals that like live. I think they're in the woods and they like across the street from homes and stuff. I'm not a regular reader of it, but I do enjoy it when I read it. Um, I like the artwork in there. They've had a couple of I believe they've had a couple or at least one movie, and I did enjoy the film, but but the comic, the style is so much different from the film,
Yeah.
and I tend to like the drawing in the comic a little better than the cartoon. The cartoon, they it got stylized and cleaned up for animation, so it's smoother. And I believe it's a 3D animated cartoon. It's been years since I saw it, but Over the Hedge, the strip itself, his work has this beautiful fluidity to his lines, and sometimes they're just very scratchy, and you could see how great how great his work is when you look at it. There's always a chuckle. Sometimes I'll be honest. Sometimes I'm not laughing really hard at the strip or even chuckling loud, but there's always something to kind of make me smile with that strip. You know,
Yeah.
um, so that is a good strip to look at. I
Yeah, he
thought,
says that it was adapted into a movie. That's where I've heard it, Over the Head.
yeah, and I've
Yeah.
and like I said, I saw the movie. It was 3D. It was a little
Yeah.
smoother of design. It's not the design from the comic, but I understand, having worked in animation, why you need to change stuff up sometimes. The style can be very scratchy, very a little messy. Even though I see the smoothness of his lines, it does have a little heavy blacks, little not rush, roughness sometimes to the inking that it wouldn't transfer over well into like 2D or 3D animation. I just prefer the style of the comic more. Um, let's let's move on to single panel gags. You mentioned um, Mark Parisi over the off the mark, which I love, and I don't have examples of. I was going to pull some because these I just pulled from like Google Images. I didn't go on websites, so I wish I can credit where I got it from, but I just quickly went on Google Images and just I typed in Peanuts'
Yeah.
first comic strip and pulled it. Calvin and Hobbes' first strip, and then Beetle Bailey, and I just went. You know what I mean? I just kind of did that.
Yeah.
Um, but Mark, I've never talked to him. I've never met him personally. I'm connected with him on social media and then through comments. We might have had a little chat. But you know, when it's someone I'm connected with like this, I'd like to ask their permission. I didn't get a chance to ask permission when I was setting this up today, so I didn't want to use his stuff. But I pulled up two strips, um, two what's the word I'm looking two different strips. I pulled up the king of probably all single panel gags, which is The Far Side.
Yep.
And I didn't pull out the collection, but I do have the collection of the two giant books behind me under one of my desks. And I pulled up a friend of mine. I'm not sure if I think you've had the chance to meet him, at least virtually. Roger Phillips. He does the Gray Zone. They're kind of, I don't want to say they're similar, but you can tell that Roger had Far Side influences. He's just doing it all through aliens. So let's take a look at those strips. Let me find my mouse. There it is. So I pulled up a few um, Far Side. The top are Far Side. The bottom are Rogers, the Gray Zone. So the first one is we'll do the far Side first. Dang. Now where was I going? And the gag line says Superman in his later years. This one is always been one of my favorites. So there are two alien fire hydrants, and there's a dog in there. And it says, "Take me to your leader," I said. And then the most hideous thing happened, and you can even see that there's just like a puddle, and he's flicking off some some obviously urine. And I guess this is just from being a cartoonist. I think this is my all-time favorite one. It goes, the gag line is at the old cartoonist home, and it says, "Oh yeah, once I drew a nose that was this big, or
Yeah.
must have been this big." So I think that's just fantastic. Um, and then let's just take a look at Roger. So beef patties, and he says peppermint, and it's peppermint patty on the grill from Charlie Brown, from Peanuts. The second one, the aliens crash and says they'll never find us. So they're dressing up as Waldo from Where's Waldo.
Yeah.
And then the last one here, it always cracks me up, and this is a recent one for him. It says, "How can you miss science and nature?" So they're going up against a chicken and a cow, and they're obviously aliens that are supposed to be geniuses, fly interstellar spaceships, and they couldn't get science and nature. So it's also a nice joke on crop circles versus Trivial Pursuit. So I think some of these are self-explanatory, but and we got a comment from Alfred, and we're going to get to that in a moment, but what I wanted to ask you, have you ever tried single panel gags?
No. No, I thought about it, but for me, it was more of just putting in a caption
Mm-hmm.
than anything else. And I that's a lie. I did do one called Recovery Road,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that for a friend of mine who has a radio show called Recovery Radio, and it's about um, you know substance abuse and the healing and where you can get help and all of that. And he asked me to do a cartoon for that once a month um, at one panel, and it's basically talking about an agency that I did a caricature of him, and I created another character that I used to have in there, and it provided a little bit of levity to it, but spoke about the serious subject and that. So I did do that, but it was difficult to come up with. I don't know how they do it for single panels. You have to have that mindset, I think.
And I will say this, I'm actually much more a single panel gag writer than I am a multi-strip. I have, and I'm going to show this. And so you know what? Let me come back to let me pull this off for a moment. All right. What I want to show, and we'll talk about this in a moment, and this might be going to Alfred's question, which says, "What advice would you give to starting a strip, and what is your thought process?" Thank you. So here's a couple of things I pulled out before, to talk about. Now, I do a lot of gags, and here's one that I'm going to be drawing very soon, and I don't mind sharing it. All right. And I usually draw on, and this is a small pad, but I usually draw and write on yellow paper, yellow line paper. I don't know why, but that's just the way I see it. It's kind of like just kind of a rough. I don't care about the paper that much, I
Yeah,
guess. I don't know. But sometimes I do little roughs on regular, photocopy paper or whatever. And I do a lot of work on that too. But okay, so we all know about the story of the labyrinth, from Greek mythology. The Minotaur's in there, and who is it? Theseus, I believe. I forget who it was. Gets lost in the maze. But here, and I sometimes don't even draw the full thing. But here is the character. He's looking at a map like you are here, and the Minotaur is going to be standing right behind him.
yeah,
So like that's a nice little gag. It's a nice play on the Minotaur. Would everybody find it funny? I don't know. I'm hoping my drawings enhance the humor on it,
right.
but the gag line is, "You are here," like, or I am here, and you're going to see that little dot on the you know
Yeah,
so you play around with it, you work on it. And this whole, let me just move this in here. This whole blue piece are gags. All
Ah,
right. These
a
are
gag
all
bag.
yeah, exact. Everything in here is a single panel gag that I've written. Some are
Wow.
years old, some are recent, but every time, whether they're on a yellow piece of paper, white paper, whatever it is, this small, big size, I tear it off, I put it in here, and then I go through it. And if I need to rework the joke for it, like I just told you a joke, you saw the picture. It wasn't even a good picture of it. It's just a little shorthand for me. Is it funny? We won't know until I actually
Right.
draw it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in
Get
the
the product.
meantime, I might rewrite the gag line. Like I said, you are here or I am here, whatever he's saying. But it might change, you know, and it all depends sometimes just on the drawing. Um, Now I have a multi-panel strip called The Wiz, which you know about. I shut down in 2019 due to medical issues and needing to relieve some stress. And I'm in the process. I'm actually going to start officially at the end of next week drawing the strip.
Ooh, I can't wait.
I've written about 48, 49. I'm almost at 52. I'm going to go once a week just because last time my schedule was a little too much for me. And it'll be up on Instagram, Facebook, and maybe a few other places. But in the meantime, you know, I'm gonna draw it out. I want to draw out as many as I can, and once I have at least 20 to 30 strips drawn out and ready to go, I'll start posting. So I'm hoping by maybe the end of March at the latest to start reposting and do once a week. This way, I'm ahead of schedule and
Cool.
I don't have to deal with all that stress and medical issues I had to deal with. But the Wiz this is my from 2018. This is my folder for the Wiz. So in here are notes and drawings of characters. Like I don't know if you remember, there's a character in there called Count Dracula, who was a vampire who lives on soda. You know. So I don't know if that was my very first drawing of him or not. Let's see. Let me just see here. Sometimes my multi-panels start with just doodles. You know,
Yeah.
like what's this here? Like here was something for an idea that I never did, and this could have been the final panel of the strip, where it's just, and this is before the Wiz took the official shape, but it was the Wiz and Ajax. Ajax is obviously his raven.
Love it.
Just talking, and you know, so what gag can I? So sometimes I'll just do a funny picture and then try to write a joke based on what's happening. Here's an old design I did of the Wiz that didn't come out.
Okay.
You know? So it's like I keep everything because you never know what's going to happen. You know, but this right here, and I'm not going to really share the jokes on here because this yellow pad right now is basically all my recent Wiz jokes. So all the new stuff's going to come out over here. But I've also I wrote on index cards. All right. So I got little jokes here. And instead of, where is it here? I'm just trying to find one that isn't too crazy. Oh, so this one's going to be an alien joke right here. So instead of all these little dashes I put, and I'm just kind of showing it off to the side so you can't read it, but that's someone talking and a new panel. So I try to keep it very simple to only one person talking per panel. If I need to do two, I will. But all those
is it 4 panels or 3?
It depends on the joke. Some are 4, some are 3. But the majority of them are 4 panels. When I write strips, I tend what was I going to say? I tend to write 4 panels. I prefer, you know, it's funny because I prefer the 3-panel setup like Garfield and like you do, because I like that just beat of intro, setup, punchline, you know? Hold on. Oh, Mike says, thanks for the idea. You are here instead of person There's a giant here.
That's a Mike Wilkie joke
Yeah,
right there.
Mike Wilkie
Yeah.
is. If you guys watching don't know who Mike Wilkie is, I've said this. He is like the gag guy, and he has a joke for everything. He Go look up his strip Watermelon Bones. It's funny. The other thing I wanted to share is I've been working on a new strip on and off for the last, I'd say, year or so, and I just want to see if I can find the original sketch. But the name of the strip is Conway, and it's about. I kind of wanted to think like, what if Charlie Brown was an adult? That's kind of how I'm looking at it, and his life didn't really get better. You know, so it's all like sad. I don't want to say sad stories, but so this. Nope, that's not the first sketch. I know that, but this right here is a picture of the character. This isn't the first sketch, but that's kind of him. And he's just kind of a sad guy that has a kind of a pathetic life, but it's got great great humor, I think, in there, or at least I like to think. I still don't know what he does for a living, but here's something I don't mind sharing. I designed and I eventually put him in a plaid outfit suit. So like I was just doing things with reactions and stuff, and then I have a little joke down at the bottom here of a dog chasing him while he's barbecuing. So you know.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
inadvertently, well, not inadvertently, I sent you one of my strips
Through where? Facebook?
on Messenger.
Okay, let me open up Facebook.
And I'd love it for you to analyze that as we're talking about this stuff. I don't know if you can show it or not.
Oh, yeah. Once I get onto Facebook, I'll pull it into... You know what? Before I do this, let me just come over here. I'll get a new layer so I know. Okay. So let's bring this on. And I'm going to just scale it up.
You're so tech savvy.
Well, you gotta. First of all, I spent many a years in the professional art world as like a graphic designer and all the. Whoops! Hold on one second. The wind just blew my door open.
Ooh,
All right. Alfred also says, "Is it possible to get a signed copy of The Wiz? And also, could Tim sign a drawing, please?" And Alfred also says, "Hello to Mike Wilkie, greetings from Dublin, Ireland." Hold on, I'm just going to take my headsets off for a second. All right, sorry about that. I just have a cat. I don't want him coming in the room or bother my wife if she's watching TV or something. So, okay, let's take a look at the strip. Add to stream. And it says here, "I can't get my stupid lawnmower to start, Aesop. I've tried everything I can think of. I mean, the thing is brand new. Maybe I should try some starter fertilizer." He kind of grows. So, first of all, analyzing it, it made me laugh. Okay.
Yeah.
So, number one, it's good. Excuse me. I like the introduction here. Now that's something we're going to talk about. And where's my stylist? I'm just going to write above it real quick, since we're talking about a 3-panel joke. For those wondering how a 3-panel works, usually we start with the intro. We introduce the story or the characters, the plot, where we are. Then we set up the joke, and then we punchline. However, in here, I feel the punchline and the setup really are in one panel. I feel without this line here for setting him up for the joke, you can't get the punchline. You know, which is fine. Which is fine. I mean, there's no reason this has to be a 4-panel joke or it has to go this way. Because one of the things that I do, I read many years ago, no more than 20 words per panel. So I like how you're breaking it up.
Oh, wow.
So here, if I look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if we move this over, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So it would be a little wordy panel. But I will say this. With the way, I mean, you could play around with things by removing the word stupid, but it helps with his anger. If you brought this over here, okay? And then this could have just been a silent panel where they're just kind of looking at each other to help, like, and what we would call, instead of the setup, this would be the beat, you know? But this isn't, it's not bad. Like I said, it made me laugh. You kind of used this as the setup, which is what it is, but usually this part, to me, if and I'm talking about how I would write, and I'm not saying anything except how I would write this.
Right.
I would have this in this panel. That's just me. That's just me. All right. Everything I've just done and written on here does not need any changes. You know, your strip works great the way it works, but I write differently. So I'm talking about how I'd write it. I think you got a great setup. And you got a great punchline, because obviously he kind of grows on you, talks about, you know, fertilizer, talks about how it helps grass grow, you know, things like that. The joke works. And
so what I often do, not all the time, but what I often do is I'll do a secondary punchline.
Okay.
So the first punchline for me is, the lawnmower, baby, and this shows Maddie's intelligence, which isn't much. You know, maybe I could try some starter fertilizers. So, it's starter to start the mower, but it's fertilizer, because it's a lawnmower.
Yeah.
And then the secondary one is, Aesop interacting with the audience. He kind of grows on you. So there's a couple of punches there. And I like to do that sometimes. Just to, I can't explain why, but it works. It's almost like I feel like he needs to say something, but I think it continues the joke on and kind of gives it a little more strength. But again, what I was saying before is, I kind of knew that Aesop was gonna say something. I didn't plan on it, but he just, as I'm writing it or as I'm doing it, I was just like, you know what? I can see him saying that. So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
No, I like I said, I think it's fine. It made me laugh, and that's the important thing. That's what it is. And if I can laugh at the end of a joke, it means it's written in the way that it works for me, you know?
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I write differently, so I would have attacked the joke differently.
Right.
Okay, but it doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean what you did is wrong or bad in any way. It's just it works. It works very well. I mean, I read it before I did anything, before I analyzed anything, and I left. And that's what you want. So, and we got Alfred saying, that's funny, Tim, in the comments. So you
Thanks,
did you did a really good good gag here. I'm going to show something. I'm going to show one of mine. And let me just open it up real quick. And nope, we'll look at that in a moment. Let's just go to desktop. Sorry. I'm going to look up Guru here. So this is a Wiz comic, but it doesn't feature the Wiz. All right? This features Ajax. Now, the reason I'm showing this one here is because, and you know what, let me just bring it into the other one. I might need to make it bigger. The reason my mouse, I feel, is a little off today. I plan to bring it in here is because, yeah, it needs to be bigger to be read. So, sorry. I forgot the new Photoshop. We don't have to hold the shift key to scale up and make stuff. So the reason why I wanted to show this one, because it technically doesn't need the fourth panel. So in the first panel, Ajax is visiting a guru. He says, "Great guru, I have traveled very long and far to find the answer to a conundrum that has plagued the minds of the greatest thinkers for decades." And he says, the guru says back, "There's no question that cannot be answered when we look inside and reflect deeply on it. What is your question?" And Ajax says, "Is Greece the word or is bird the word?" And in the final panel, the guru's mind is blown. He's blown his top. You know? I technically don't need that fourth panel. It's just an extra reaction. That's just a reaction shot. I think it works great as a third panel, and I don't know if I was to do this one again, do I really want that fourth panel in there? Or what I'm in the process of doing is I was putting a book together of all the strips I've previously done. I was thinking on this page, I run it both with and without and let the audience decide which they like better, you know? But since I went over one of yours, please go over this one for for me here. Give me a critique. How would you attack something like this, or what are your thoughts on it?
Oh boy. No, it's not that. It's just I'm just trying to think. I'm having trouble reading it too, but
Do you need me to reread it or zoom in anywhere?
yeah, can you zoom in one more
Absolutely. Hold on.
or two?
And
Okay.
I will move. Whoops. Hold on. Hand. Move this over. So you can read. I'll even zoom in one more time if it's. Ooh, that's too big. Sorry. Go ahead. Can you read that?
Yep. Great guru travel very long and far to find the answer to a conundrum that has plagued the minds of the greatest thinkers for decades. There is no question that cannot be answered when we look inside and reflect deeply on it. What is your question? Is Greece the word, or is
Bird.
broad? What
Bird
is
the
it?
word. Bird the
Or is
word.
bird the word?
Yeah.
And then his mind is blown.
Yeah, in the last
So,
panel.
you know, it works the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I think it works the way it is. I'm just trying to see. It might be a little wordy in the first one,
Mm-hmm.
but you know that's fine. Um, I don't know if that would be his reaction in the last panel. Maybe if he said something,
Mm-hmm.
playing off of what one of the things that the bird said. Um, I'm just so his mind is blown because he can't come up with the answer.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look in the third panel, he's kind of shocked, and and that's kind of how So he's kind of, you can just see by his expression that he's shocked and confused, and you know, is it
Yeah.
too big for the guru's mind to even handle? And that's kind of why I did the whole blow your top type of.
Yeah, no, it works as it is. I think if I were to I would maybe keep his mind blowing, but have him say, you know, I'm at a loss for words,
Mhm.
or whatever. But it's good. I mean,
Yeah.
I love, the drawing, of course, is
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you.
Um, but there's a number of directions you could go with this.
Hmm.
I think it's cute. I think
Hmm.
it works. But there are a number of maybe some other options you could do with that last panel.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying that, do we need that last panel? Um, so if we took that one out, he might be able to say something in that third panel um, as a joke, and you don't necessarily need to have his mind blown.
Hmm.
Um, because it kind of begs the question: why is it blowing his mind? Is it because he can't think of it, or is it
Hmm.
too tough of a question, or is it a question he didn't expect?
Hmm.
That type of stuff. So I kind of need to know why his mind blew up.
Okay.
Is kind of what I'm trying to get out of this.
Okay.
So, but it does work. I understand what's going on. I kind of need a little more information, I guess.
Hmm.
You know,
No,
that's
that's
that's my humor.
yeah.
I would play off the word.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
I'm at a loss for words. Um, but that's just
Yeah.
me. You may come up with something better or different,
Mhm.
depending on your look at it.
Yeah.
But
Um,
I agree with what you're saying.
mhm. Now, I want to say you mentioned something about the drawing. This for me is the beauty of working digitally. All
Yeah,
right, I basically copied every panel and just worked on layers. So in the first panel here, it's Ajax is in one place. He was on a separate layer than the Guru, and the background's on a separate layer. Then I come here and I erased Ajax and drew him here, and then opened his eyes. It's the exact same pose. I changed his positioning a little bit, but if you look, it's the same, like the same eye and stuff. So I did a lot of the same things here, and then that's why
yeah,
the background always. And I do that a lot just to keep my work um, is just so I can keep my work steady, because I'm not a big fan of drawing backgrounds. So when I got something good and I need it in every background, I just copy and paste.
I hear you. Yeah,
In the
but
comments,
now
yeah, go ahead.
reading it again,
Hmm.
I would just get rid of the last panel.
Yeah,
The look on the guru's face is priceless,
yeah. Thanks,
and the fact that um, what's the bird's name? Ajax.
Ajax. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ajax, saying in the first panel, about sounds like all these, really in-depth questions and that type
Hmm.
of thing, intelligent questions, whatever. Can't find the answer, and his real answer is, a funny one.
Yeah.
So I think Guru's face, uh, you know, solidifies it. If you didn't have that last panel, that's a funny one.
Yeah.
So it's just like you said, that last panel is extra.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the input. This strip, even though I think it's one of my favorite in the writing,
Yeah,
I never think I was always concerned if it should have been a single or I mean a 3 or 4 panel strip. And the more I go back and look, I think I would have done it as a 3 panel strip. But in the
yeah,
comments, Mike Wilkie says, looking at it from a single panel perspective, the third panel by itself, with I think he meant with Ajax looking at the Guru with the right kind of look. Um, and I get that. And as a single panel, I do a lot of single panels myself. Um, I could totally, I would make the third panel the joke itself if I was doing it. Maybe put a gag line underneath it, or even take the word balloon out and use that as the gag line underneath, because I I have done this in the past where I've written a gag strip and the picture works, but I need a different gag for it. So I've reused images, and comics like the Lockhorns I know have done things like that. Mike also says great strip though. Thanks a lot for that. I appreciate it. And as a cartoonist, and I think Mike can attest to this, and you could attest to this. We're going to be our own worst critics,
Yeah.
and like when we create something, it's a part of us, and we kind of, it's almost like we're putting, our heart and soul out for the world to see. So negative feedback can hurt us, but we're the ones constantly looking, how can we have done that better? And this is one of those strips where I love my writing on it, but I'm like, did I execute it well enough? And that's why I pulled this one up for you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's my thing. It's like, am I, did I do it well? So, and we also got, I don't know if I read this one. Alfred posted, is it possible to get a signed copy of The Wiz? And also if Tim could sign a drawing, please.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. Well, I will say this. Right now, The Wiz is down. I don't have a book out yet. I do have prints I usually sell at conventions, but right now I'm not. They're put away. They're packed away because cons are gone for the pandemic. But yeah, I do have some stuff that you could always message me about, and we could talk. You know. Um,
Well, I'll tell
so.
you what, Alfred. If you go on my website
Mhm.
and
Which is your website, by the way? Please share that.
sourgrapescomic.com and and I have my books on the Etsy store. And you pick a book and I'll sign it you could buy a book. I'll sign it and send it for free. I know you're in Dublin, but I'll send it over there for free. So if you'd like to do that, I'd be more than happy.
All right.
See how I sell books? I tell people to go buy them.
You have to, always promote yourself here.
Yes.
I wanted to bring this up. I do a lot of work with different age groups. I've taught college. I work with kids. One of my business, the Get in Tune brand, is my educational brand where I travel, usually schools, libraries, things like that, and I teach and talk about cartooning, animation, um, because of obviously the pandemic, I'm doing things virtually right now, which I think sometimes might even work a little better, just because I have access to my whole computer at the time I'm doing this. But there's something, and if you go on my website, getintune.net, excuse me, and that's with TON, and go to the download section, you can find this. This is a template that I created. It's prints up on 8.5 by 11. It basically borders out, I think it's 3 inches by 10 inches or so. It's technically a standard comic size for 8.5 by 11. Like if you were to reproduce this at whatever the percentage is, it would fit a newspaper size. And this gives you the idea of 3 or 4 panels and how to write them. And one of the things I wanted to talk about with this today, and this isn't on, you just get this. And my website, by the way, is down there, getintune.net. And also michaelgracia.com, which is my business website. What I like about this, and when I used this in the beginning, it was to test my strips to see. It was a cheap way to test my strips, see if it works better in 3 or 4 panels. I don't use this all the time, but I came up with this for myself, and then it was a great process. So if you're doing strips all the time, and I don't have them up, but I do have templates of just 4 panels, 2 of 4 panels, 2, 3 panels. So however your jokes work, I have these here, and it's just a great way to help me out. But obviously, title of the strip, number of the strip, who it's by, and And you know, so like I said here, I just want to just write this here: intro, setup, punchline. This is the process, or the main process. So you're introducing your scene, your characters, you're setting up the joke, and then boom, you hit them with the punchline. This one here, you keep the intro here, you set it up. This one here is usually the beat, and then here's the punchline. Now, for those who don't know what a beat is, it's kind of a pause in the strip to kind of help build up to the punchline. So that is the process of writing I do when I do 3 or 4 panels. Now, Tim, we saw on your strip that you had this, you really had the setup and the punchline in the last strip, which is fine. But is this a process you normally follow? You talked about writing jokes and doing stand-up comedy. Is this a process that you follow as well, or do you have a different writing process?
I'm not sure what you mean.
When you're writing a joke, how do you like, do you say every joke is going to be intro, setup, punchline, or how do you
Oh,
handle your joke writing?
it all depends on what's going on. To be honest with you, uh,
Mhm.
this is
Hold on, let me give you the screen so we can see it better. Let me get to that monitor. All right, and we're gonna go full. There you go.
one that I just did.
Hmm.
This is how uh, I'm revealing this. This is how I do my scripts. Uh,
Hmm.
so it depends on the joke. This one just came out this week. If everything's backwards. Um, Maddie has to speak at a seminar, but he's too chicken. And he says even if I did it, wouldn't know where to begin. And Aesop says you could lead with cluck cluck.
I remember that one. Yes.
Yeah.
I,
So this one, Aesop's doing kind of a callback to Maddie saying he's a chicken.
yeah.
And then you could lead with it, speaking to Maddie not knowing where to begin. So it depends on where I want to play with the words.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times it's called a callback. You're kind of referring back to here's another one that I just did. Uh, Maddie's got a headache. He doesn't know why. Um, and then Maddie, being his character, he says that he figures that it's a UFO he saw last night trying to communicate with me. So Aesop, knowing that this is stupid, um, he says maybe it's all in your head, being a headache. And then I think I wrote Maddie saying you think
Mm.
with that, but again, referring back to the first panel. But sometimes, like the other one that you showed, it's more within the second panel than it is the first panel, and
Hmm.
so on and so forth. So I again, it has to do with um, what's going on in the strip itself, and
Hmm.
what works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically it. I don't know if I have a process or not. It's just kind of I go with the flow, I guess. It's
Okay.
probably a better way
Yeah.
um, to go about it, and the
Yeah.
knee jerk response um, is key with me.
Yeah.
Um, so
Um,
um,
yeah, no, I've always kind of, I just write myself, but I always kind of keep this process in my head. I don't stick, I don't stay strict to it. I think it's so like just natural for me to think I'm writing a panel, a 3 panel. I have to
mhm,
have the punchline at the end. One of the things, and this is what I was doing with the strip I showed, I put the punchline here. All right. And I didn't have the beat. I just used it as a punchline. And then I wanted what we call a reaction uh, piece on there, and that's why I thought it was funny, because we're having the reaction now. You know, um, you know, and to some people here, so punchline reaction, and I've done this too, and I don't have an example I can pull off my is called the reverse, where the joke is actually pulled on the person who gave the punchline, or there's just another piece here. So that happens a lot in four panels. This is just kind of my method in my head, things I learned not just from the reading of stuff, but from just years of reading comics. And when I meant reading stuff, I meant reading the books I showed at the beginning of the instruction and stuff. It's um I try to keep things simple. Oh, my door opened again. I try to keep things simple in the way I'm thinking and the way I write. I think it's funnier in that format. Um, in my head. But yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of have something in the way I work all the time. I know I got to introduce, I got to set up, and once you get familiar with the characters, even though you still, I feel you still need to do this. So, um, it's just a natural way of writing, and the reason I wanted to show this today, like I said, I'm talking humor comics today. I'm talking about, and well, we're talking humor comics, um, but but the idea of storytelling Saturdays is always going to be educational bits of storytelling. So like Alfred, who was out there asking questions about starting up a comic, I think this is a great way to really think about joke writing when you're doing a comic. But not everyone, I think, works this way. So you got to find what works for you. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not like the master knowledge man of storytelling, of joke writing. I'm just very knowledgeable. I've done it for over 20 years. Um, it is what it is. Everyone does things different, which is why I wanted a guest on today. So, it's awesome that you were able to come on and talk. I might have to do one thing of just single panel and have Mike Wilkie come on and talk about single panel gags.
Yeah.
I'd love to have him come on and just do that. And I could show some of my single panels that I've done. We could show some of his. We're gonna wrap up in a moment, but is there anything you want to add that we didn't mention or want to talk about?
Well, one thing that I find helps is to I try and I try and how can I say this without it sounding corny? Well, I can't. It's like I try and smile when I'm drawing and I write. Like I said, I write and draw at the same time, and um, so I try and just see how it's going to be funny and see if it's making me laugh, and if it isn't, then there's a lot of erasing that's going on, and um, again, like I said in the beginning, you know, look and see what makes you laugh, and try and if you're creating a comic strip, uh, bring that mindset into your own writing.
Yeah.
Like you have a whole folder of jokes. You
Mhm.
know, some people might have a whole folder of drawings and they want to add, um, like single panels, and they want to go back and put the captions to it. You know,
Mhm.
um, and like for me, um, I'm writing and drawing at the same time, so I'll have all these you know sticky notes
Yep.
and notes that I shove in my wallet, just an idea or something that I just heard, that I just experienced, or whatever, something that I went through, and I'll write it down because
Mhm.
if I can find the humor in something, I write it down, no matter
Yeah.
what it was, and and it might sit in my wallet for quite a while, but
Mhm.
I've got it written down, you know, um, because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm writing a joke, or
Mhm.
I'm doing a strip, and it starts out with one thing and completely turns into something else.
Yeah.
That's another thing that happens. I meant to mention that. Um, it all depends. Like I said, I go with the flow
Yeah.
and
Sorry, go
see,
ahead.
see where it goes. So I mean,
Yeah. I did want to ask you. Now you say you just write kind of wherever, but do you have like a place where you enjoy writing, or a place that just is like, I'm going to sit down and write now? And like, do you have a place you go to? Is it is it your studio, or it's just kind of wherever the
it's just me just walking around. I'm a space cadet, so I'm kind of ask anybody, and I
Mhm.
just whatever it just pops in my mind. I'm not. Another thing I meant to say is it's never good to strain for a joke.
Mhm.
Never good. So if you're straining for the joke, then it's probably not going to come out funny
Yeah.
or a situation. So
Yeah.
um, if it gets to that point and I can't think of something, I just put it away and go on to something else,
Yeah.
and just come back with a fresh eye. So I really really have gotten to myself in a habit. Just if I'm starting to strain or really
Mm.
struggle with a strip, I just don't do it. I go on to something else.
Yeah.
Um, so you know that's one thing that just came to mind.
Yeah. The other question I want to ask you is, do you write every day or just when it hits you?
When it hits me,
Okay.
see, I'm published once a week, so I have a few things I write down, and
Hmm.
whatever comes out that day. Uh,
Okay.
I never sit down and just write,
Hmm.
and I never sit down and just draw. It just happens.
Yeah.
That's just the way I work. You know,
Okay.
it's like
Um,
having to go to the bathroom. It just happens.
yeah. Um, yeah, no, for
Like I
me,
don't
it's,
plan it. Like I say, on Wednesday, I'm gonna pee.
no, for me, it happens, a little differently. I do actually, because I try to write daily. Some days I get nothing, but there are days where I'm just going to be like, I'm sitting down today, I'm writing, and I look for topics. I look at the calendar. I'm like, oh, Valentine's Day is coming up. What could I write about love? And I do this a lot for my single panel gags over the Wiz and stuff like that. Um, or I'll be like, oh, we got what's coming up in that month of March. Oh, we got St. Patrick's Day. You know, what can I do with St. Patrick's? And what represents? So I kind of start thinking like that. So for me, I tend to kind of sit down and use it as an exercise. And I'll be like, I have to write as a target. My goal is about between 10 to 20 jokes when I'm sitting down and writing. And there are days I'll seriously write 30 or 40 and maybe only have two good ones, but I'll just be like,
Wow.
here's something good. Average, I get about anywhere from 8 to 15. But there have been days like when I wrote The Wiz, the new stuff, I literally wrote 40 of those strips in 2 weeks. There was one day I just knocked out 12 jokes in an
Wow.
hour. Yeah, and that's all those index cards. There's like 12 or 14 of them. That was 1 hour of me working, you
Wow.
know? And so, but sometimes you get on a roll, sometimes things happen. But I don't want to say I force myself, but I tend to say, I'm going to sit down and write. Today's going to be my day to write. And I just like to be comfortable. So sometimes I'll just lay down on my couch or I'll lay in bed or something and just kind of veg out and just kind of let kind of it enter me somehow,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I do for my
It can
writing.
it
Yeah,
can
go
be
ahead.
anywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, driving or whatever. And I also find that if I don't think about what I want to do for the following week
Yeah.
for my next deadline when I'm going to draw. I usually draw Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
My first deadline is Tuesday. Um,
Mhm.
so I just kind of go with something that all of a sudden pop in the head, and like I said, I write it down. So
Yeah.
yeah, everybody has their own thing that works for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just want to get to the comment. Alfred says, "Thank you both for sharing your amazing talent and knowledge with all of us. Wishing you both continued success." So thank you, Alfred.
And he's in
For
Dublin, Ireland.
yeah. I want to definitely thank you for tuning in. That's the beauty of having things like Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all this stuff where I'm streaming right now.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. And for those of you who don't follow the Wiz yet, if you go to @theWizComic on both Facebook and Instagram, you could follow me. And Wiz is WIZ. So it's the Wiz Comic. Can you hang back in backstage for a few minutes? Or
Who, me?
yeah, you.
Okay. Yes, for a couple.
Yeah, for a couple minutes. I just want to talk to you off air for a second.
Yeah.
So we're gonna end up. I want everyone to follow Sour Grapes 2017 on Instagram. Read his strip. It is a great strip. I read it every time I see a post. I make sure to stop and read it on Instagram. If I see it on Facebook, I'll do the same thing. And if I haven't seen something in a while, I'll just go to your page every now and then, because I follow a hell of a lot of people on Instagram. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing this with me. I'm gonna actually.
Anytime, Michael.
I think I might have to send Mike Wilkie a message when we're done with this for a single panel gag.
I will tune in for Mike Wilkie.
Yeah, thank you. Otherwise, he won't watch me at all. So, Mike, you have to come on. So
I hear it's expensive, though.
Don't tell me that.
Do like a Venmo or something for a PayPal.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming on. I'm just going to send you back, and we'll chat in a moment. All right. Okay. I'm just going to do my closing.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for coming on. I had a lot of fun talking with you today.
Cool.
All right. All right, guys. So number one, thank you guys for tuning in today. Usually I do this, is an hour, especially when I'm by myself. But today I'm at 2 hours and like 45 minutes. It's amazing. I'm loving that. I'm loving that you guys are tuning in. I'm loving that you guys are enjoying this show. I'm going to be doing this every Saturday. Next week I'll come up with a topic for you. I'll check out my Facebook. Well, before I forget, this is how to find me, guys. Check me out on Facebook at getintune.net, at Michael Gracia, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, and on Twitch at TuneMaker76. This way you can find out what's coming on. I usually start advertising this on Wednesday or Thursday, so you know what's coming up for Saturday. And if you and for those of you who watch my Tuesday night shows at 8:30 Eastern, on again the same Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. I have 2 shows this week. I have a special episode on Monday featuring Sam Vera and George Medina from Catch the Craze, talking about their new Kickstarter for their comic Catch the Crazies. It's their second issue. And on Tuesday, I got and I'm sorry if I butcher his last name. I'm not good with that. Arnie Liebervit. He's a producer and director of Puppet Tune, the story of George Pal. It's got George Pal, the fantastic animator, stop motion animator from like the 30s and such. And you gotta tune in to check that out. So they're both at 8:30, one on Monday, one on Tuesday. You guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks again for tuning in. I had a lot of fun talking with Tim today. And make sure you follow Sour Grapes 2017. All right, guys. Have a great time.